Turn your Bibles over to Luke chapter 14. As John said, and I think he said this a couple of weeks ago, this has become our anthem, song number 369, More About Jesus. And my whole goal is for us to have a better understanding of who Jesus was and who he is in our lives, and the way that he interacted with people, the way that he spent time with people. And some of the time we look at the way that he interacted with people and we shake our heads like, well, why would you do that? And why would you spend time with this person and so on and so forth? And even the Pharisees we looked at last week, they had a hard time with some of the people that he was spending time with. But I don't want to look so much as this week at really what or who Jesus spent time with, but I want to get a snap picture of who he spent or what a day of his life was like, and also what we can draw conclusion for our own selves. If we don't internalize ourselves what Jesus can do in our lives still presently today, then I really don't know why we're coming to church. If we're not getting a deeper relationship with Jesus on an everyday level, then why are we even in this whole Christianity thing? Because we want to be able to deepen our faith. We want to deepen our relationship with Jesus and with God, and through the Holy Spirit that we have in our lives, we want to be able to get deeper in that. So I want us today to look in Matthew chapter 14, and we're going to look at a day in Jesus' life. I don't know what kind of days you have. If you, right now, I'll be honest with you, for Sandy and I, we're very, very busy because we're trying to get everything cleaned up before we go on holidays. We're calling all the time. Can you do this? Can you do that? And we're doing that. And this week, I every Sunday morning for our Psalms class, I type the notes out and so on and so forth. And this week, I got 4 weeks done. I've never done that before, but I got all 4 weeks done. They're printed. They're at the back. They're ready for you, Don, when I'm away. I'll be here next week, but I'm busy. I've got, and there's one word that I'm still trying to learn, and that's the word no. Haven't learned that very well. And praise God, when we go on holidays, I'm not taking any tools. I'm not taking anything like that. We're just going to relax. The only tool that I'll take is my Bible and my computer and continue studying, but so on and so forth. But I'm not taking any tools, just going to relax. And, but I can look at my life and say, it's busy. Well, let's look at Jesus' life here. In Matthew chapter 14, at that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard the reports about Jesus, and he said to his attendants, "This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead. That is why miraculous powers are at work in him." So Herod hears about this Jesus, and he doesn't really know much about Jesus, so he automatically says, well, this is really just John the Baptist is Jesus' guy because he's doing these miracles and so on and so forth. We need to be careful and watch out for him. In verse 3, now Herod had arrested John and bound him and put him in prison because of Herodias, his brother's Philip wife. John had been saying to him, "It's not lawful for you to have her." John was saying, okay, you're married to this person, but you're living with this person, and you shouldn't be doing that. And he was calling sin, and he didn't like that. So he didn't really like him that much. And so Herod goes on in verse 5. Herod wanted to kill John, but was afraid of the people because they considered John a prophet. On Herod's birthday, the daughter of Herodias danced for the guests and pleased Herod so much that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she asked. Prompted by her mother, she said, "Give me on a platter the head of John the Baptist." The king was distressed, but because of his oath and his dinner guest, he ordered that her request be granted and had John beheaded in prison. His head was brought in on a platter and given to the girl, who carried it to his mother. And John's disciples came and took his body and buried it. Then they went and they told Jesus. So this is the beginning of Jesus' day. He finds out that his cousin, John the Baptist, has just been beheaded. This was his family. His cousin's beheaded, and he was also the forerunner that was supposed to go out and proclaim that God was coming. The Messiah was coming. And here, all of a sudden, John's killed. I don't know what your day starts out like, but, we find of somebody that's maybe been died overnight, and we get the call, and it definitely sends a trend for the rest of our day. It definitely sends emotions and gets us thinking about different things. And here Jesus finds out that his forerunner, the guy that's out there preaching about him, that he's going to be coming and that he's his cousin. They're about, I think, 6 months apart or 3 months apart. I forget how the timing was, but they were close. They would have spent time together in the sandbox. They would have thrown stones together at whatever. These guys would have grown up spending time together, and here he finds his friend, his brother, his cousin dead. Not a good start to his day. So what does Jesus do? Verse 13. When Jesus heard what happened, when he finds out about his brother or his cousin John here, when he finds out what happens, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. He wants to get alone. He wants to be alone. He wants to go to a solitary place because he's got a lot on his mind. He's got a lot on his heart. Sometimes we think, well, he was God, so he could deal with it. Yeah, but he was also human. He's human just like you and I. And we're going to look at passages later on that. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. And when Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and he healed their sick. This guy, Jesus, has just found out that his cousin's dead. He goes off to a solitary place. And typically what Jesus did when he went to a solitary place is he spent time in prayer. And he goes off to a solitary place, but the crowds who hear about Jesus and hear about his miracles, hear about all the things he's able to do, they come and they crowd him. And what does it say Jesus does? He heals them. He heals all of their diseases. Why? It says because he had compassion on them. You think Jesus maybe needed some compassion in his life that day? No. The loss of a family member? Loss of a good friend? But here Jesus, he turns it around because he's inundated with all of these people that are around him, and he has compassion on them, and he heals anyone who's sick. Well, this goes on for the day. It says, as evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, this is a remote place and it's already late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food. And Jesus says, no. We're going to take care of the problem here today. The people are hungry and they need something. He says, they don't need to go away. Why don't you give them something to eat? Well, verse 17, we have only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, he answered. And Gord, just so you know, I still don't know the size of the fish. Okay? I don't know how big they are. But let's not get caught on how big the fish were. Let's understand that it was a miracle, that it only took 2 fish. He said, this is all we've got. Jesus, what are you expecting from us? We don't have a lot here, and there's a lot of people here. They've been here all day, and you've already done healing, and besides, you must be exhausted. You lost your cousin today. He says, bring them here to me. Bring this food. And he directed the people to sit down on the grass, and taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people, and they all ate and were satisfied. And the disciples picked up 12 baskets of broken pieces that were left over. And the number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children. How many people were there? It says there were 5,000 men, double it for women, add in a bunch of kids. 12, 15,000 people. Like when Jesus drew a crowd, he drew a crowd. That would have been huge. So he starts his day off by finding out that his cousin's been killed. And then he goes off to a solitary place to be able to just have some time alone with his father. But when he gets there, the crowds just come in and inundate him and just take over. And so he spends the whole day healing them because of the compassion that he has in his heart. And then at the end of it, his disciple says, well, we need to send them away because they're hungry at this point. Well, let's feed them then. And he feeds them and he performs this miracle for this huge, huge crowd. Because he has compassion on people. The story doesn't end there. As soon as he feeds the 5,000, it says in verse 22, immediately Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while they dismissed the crowd. So Jesus here, he immediately says, okay, disciples, you 12 guys, I want you to get in the boat and I want you to go off to the other side because I'll meet you on the other side. So they do it. And this is at nighttime. They're going out on the waters, and these guys knew the waters. Like some of them were fishermen. They grew up on the water. They lived on the water, so they knew what the water was like. And it was like, okay, you want us to get in the boat? We'll get in the boat. We'll meet you on the other side. No big deal. Okay, great. In verse 23, after he had dismissed them, he went on a mountainside by himself to pray. You think he was justified in going off by himself and praying after the day that he just had? Think of the day of, as I say, we know the facts. We put it together. We some of the time we can read an account. Okay, yeah, we know John died and he was beheaded, and that was really hard on Jesus. And then, oh yeah, there's another story that we know of how he fed 5,000 guys, and then all the wives, and then, oh yeah, isn't this the time where Peter walks on the water and he sends him off? But when we put it all together and we see the timeline, we're talking about a very small period of time. We're going into day 2 with Jesus. First day, not great. Extremely busy. Tried to get time alone with God, but couldn't. So he makes sure that he gets time alone with God, sends his disciples off. He goes off in a solitary place to go and pray. I wonder what he prayed for. Possibly comfort. Possibly for the people that he had just healed, that they really saw that it was God's miracle working through him and that they would want to have a relationship with God because of it. Maybe he's praying for his disciples that he just sent out on the boat because he knows what it's going to be like in the next few hours on that ocean or on that sea. And maybe he's praying for them. Let's go on. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from the land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Here you've got these guys who were fishermen, who had been in the boat all kinds of times. And they could look at the sea and they could say, wow, okay, we know that a storm's coming up. They could see it coming in, and the headwind that they have coming onto them is just so strong, and they're just rolling like crazy. They're like, oh man, we're not getting. You ever been in a rowboat, or I've been in a canoe before, where it seems like 2 strokes forward, 1 stroke back, or some of the time it's the opposite: 2 strokes back, 1 forward. You're just fighting. You're fighting. That's what this day would have been like, or this night would have been like for his disciples. They're out on the water, and they've just got the wind blowing on them like crazy. Well, shortly before dawn, in verse 25, Jesus went out to them walking on the water. This is about 3 o'clock in the morning, just before dawn. His disciples have been out on the boat. They've been out all night, fighting with the waves. a headwind. In verse 26, when the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they're terrified. It's a ghost, they said, and cried out in fear. But he immediately, this is what he said to them. Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. Take courage. I'm here. I'm going to help you. I know this situation looks really bleak. I know we've been really busy over the last 24, 48 hours, and we've had lots to think about. Still mourning John, the loss of him. I've gone through some personal things, and it was a very, very busy day on the seashore there, and I healed lots of people. It was just very, very busy. I know I sent you out on the boat. I knew it was going to be rough, but I've been praying for you all night. Take courage. I'm here. You ever been through a rough day? Ever had storms in your life? Ever feel like you just can't get going, and you know the winds are coming in and they're beating at you, and it's like, God, where are you? What's going on? I need you. And then all of a sudden, take courage. I'm here. I'm here to help you. See, it's interesting because in the narrative of this story, what we typically gravitate to are the next few verses of where Peter gets out of the boat. It's very interesting because if you read the exact same account in Mark, there is absolutely zero mention of Peter getting out of the boat. It's all about Jesus saying to them, take courage. I'm with you. I'm here to help. Jesus has this ability to be able to say to us individually, don't worry. I'm here. I will take care of you. This verse has come up a couple of times over the last few weeks in my life and also in lessons. But in Romans 12, in verse 1 and 2, it says, in view of God's mercies, offer your bodies as living sacrifices. And what we do some of the time, we look at that whole idea of, okay, God wants me to offer my body as a living sacrifice, and that's really hard some of the time, and I have a hard time understanding that and figuring that. I think the reason why we have a lot of the hard time being able to do that in our lives is because we don't listen to the first part. In view of God's mercies. Do we stop and think about how God and Jesus wants to have a relationship with us individually? Do we understand the extent of what Jesus has done and what God has done, of Jesus even saying, I'm going to leave you and I'm going to leave you a comforter. I'm going to leave a spirit that's going to live inside of you to guide you and comfort you and console you and give you direction and guidance. Do we, in view of God's mercies, then offer our bodies as sacrifices? Or do we get right to, okay, well, I got to offer my body as a sacrifice. I know it's the right thing to do. I got to do this. I got to do that. And it becomes a chore. It becomes really hard some of the time. And it's like, I didn't do a very good job at offering my body as a sacrifice to God today. I was selfish and I just wasn't in the game. It's because I forgot to view the mercies of God, of when he says, don't worry. Don't worry, I'm here. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to look in your life, and I'm going to see where you need help. And if you don't think I'm there, just reach out, and I'll be there for you. Hmm. You know, it's amazing that this Jesus who says, "Don't worry, I'm in control," in view of who Jesus is. You know, we sing the song every week, more and more about Jesus. I want to learn more about Jesus, the way that he dealt with people and the way that he loved people and the way that he gave himself for us. I want to know more about Jesus and what this Jesus is like. And here we have this Jesus who this day is able to take control of the elements of nature and calm his people. One of them even wants to get out of the boat. He sees the waves and all that stuff, and he says, Jesus, if it's really you, Jesus, then just say the word. Just say the word, and I'll get out of the boat. Jesus says one simple word, come. And he gets out of the boat. And I don't know what the time frame is. It almost seems it's immediate that Peter starts to sink. But I wonder what it was like when he got out of the boat and he's looking at Jesus. And he puts his, I don't think he was even in the right mindset of, what in the world is happening? I'm walking on water. Because he had his eyes fixed on Jesus. When he took his eyes off of Jesus, when he took his eyes off of the mercies, off of the grace, off of the healing, off of the caring for, off of the compassion of Jesus, when he took his eyes off of that, what happens? He starts to sink. What does Jesus do? Immediately, he reaches his hand and lifts up Peter. Some of us maybe would have just said, let him drown. If you don't have enough faith in me, I'm just going to let you go. But immediately, Jesus reaches out his hand and he says to Peter, what happened? What happened to your faith? Why did you look away from me? Why weren't you focused on me? And Jesus here very lovingly picks him up and puts him back into the boat. He gets them onto shore. He goes on with his day. It says that he healed a whole bunch more people. He healed so many people the next day that it said that anyone who even touched his cloak were healed that day. That's how busy he was. Jesus was a busy guy. Always taking care of people. I love the way John closes his book. He says, if we're able to write all the things that Jesus did in his life, no page would ever be able to, or no books would contain all the different things that Jesus did, just over and over and over, taking care of it. But we need to understand that the same hand that reached out Peter, the same hand that healed all those that were sick, the same hand that took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes and broke them and prayed to God, the same knees that were bowed in prayer when he went to the Father, when he went to a solitary place, the same ears that heard that his cousin had been killed that day are the same hands, the same ears, the same eyes that we can come in contact with. That Jesus wants to have a relationship with us. And he wants to say to us, I know you're having a tough day. I know you're up against the wind. I know things are tough, but take courage. I'm here. And I want to help you. See, in order for us to be able to get to the point where we can go to Jesus and say, yes, I want to offer my body as a living sacrifice, we have to go back and we have to view his mercies. We have to view his grace. We have to view his saving power that he has offered to us. And understand that he's not just saying to 12 guys in a boat one night, take courage. He's saying that to you and I as well. I'm here. I want to help you. See, Jesus didn't take care of the sick. Jesus didn't just feed large groups of people. He took care of every single one of us individually and offers the same hand, just as he did to Peter when we're having problems. He says, and it might be where he says, you know what, where's your faith, guys? Where's your faith, Rob? Where was it? I'm here. I want to help you. See, that's the Jesus that we get to know. And some of the time we can just spend so much time looking at the way that he worked with other people and what he did, and we want to emulate that in our life. You know, oh, he had love for this woman that was caught in sin and he didn't see the sin. And some of the time we need to internalize it ourselves and see what kind of relationship Jesus wants to have with every one of us. It's just him reaching his hand out. Say, I know you've had a tough day. I can relate. Look at what my day's been like. I can relate. Take courage. I'm here, and I want to help you.